This video is brought to you by True Tales of Buried Treasure, the largest collection of old treasure magazines in the West. We're pleased to announce that we are now selling our physical magazines directly on our website. You can browse by magazine title or search for a particular issue using the search bar. To pay us a visit, please click the link in the description. Enjoy. By the dim light of a waning Nevada moon, 5 exhausted men labored through the night, digging a deep hole using nothing but pocket knives in their bare hands. The effort was grueling. After 5 brutal days under the relentless desert sun, with no water to sustain them, their strength was nearly gone. Once they had reached a depth of about 4 feet, they carefully lowered an oaken water barrel into the pit. Then, they backfilled the hole, carefully concealing it with sagebrush and rocks to ensure no trace remained. Inside that barrel was a fortune, approximately $100,000 worth of gold, including dust and nuggets, all taken from a remarkably rich placer deposit they had discovered in southern Nevada. These men were part of an 1851 expedition led by Frank Wilcox, a trader from Silver City, Idaho, known as both a seasoned trapper and a former Indian fighter. That spring, Wilcox and his party left Silver City on an extended prospecting journey into the harsh desert lands lying between the Humboldt and Snake Rivers. They were following in the footsteps of daring trappers who had once hunted beaver in the remote streams of the Jarbidge Wilderness. These men had returned with tantalizing stories of fabulous mineral deposits glinting in the gravel beds and of the ever-present danger posed by war parties of the western Shoshones, fierce defenders of their territory. The Shoshones, nicknamed the Sentinels of the Rockies, were known to show no mercy, sometimes burning captured prospectors alive as a grim form of entertainment for starving bands. It took only one promising discovery to ignite the entire expedition's hopes. Fired by dreams of riches, they scoured the buttes and mountain ranges like moles, burrowing into the earth in search of gold and silver. The idea was simple. Once a promising deposit was found, they would return to Wilcox and organize a full-scale expedition to exploit the find. Their journey took them deep into the Snake River drainage. They left the South Fork and headed toward the Ruby Mountains. By July, weeks into the trip, they had uncovered coarse gold in nearly every major stream and drainage they explored. Near the Owyhee River, they found more promising signs. Pan after pan of fine gravel revealed traces of placer gold, with the concentrations increasing as they neared the edge of the Great Basin. In early July, they arrived at the headwaters of the Owyhee, near a place called Independence. The river split into countless forks, rushing through narrow canyons and foaming over rocks. It was here, on the far side of the Rainbow Mountains, that they finally struck the deposit Wilcox had been chasing for a decade. The gold was coarse and rough, still dusted with oxide, clear signs that this was a genuine source deposit. The vein lay in a dry wash that cut through a steep canyon flanked by jagged rock spires. The discovery exceeded their wildest expectations. Within just 2 weeks, the 5 men had recovered over $100,000 in coarse gold. They worked tirelessly, panning, rocking, and digging in the blistering heat. So far, they had seen no signs of native activity, but just as they began preparing to return to Silver City, and later return with a pack train, the Shoshones attacked. Several men were killed in the initial ambush. Despite the violence, the survivors remained at the site and continued to work the placers for several more weeks. To make the most of the discovery, they spread out across multiple gulches, and even the men assigned to stand guard were permitted to pan the gold-rich gravel along the stream banks. By the end of the second week, they had recovered over 200 pounds of raw gold dust and nuggets, all of which they stored in one of their water barrels. But their activity along McCann Creek did not go unnoticed. The Shoshones had been watching. After quietly observing the prospectors and counting their numbers and weapons, Shoshone war parties from several bands began preparing for an ambush. They waited patiently until after midday, when the miners were scattered across nearly a quarter mile of stream bed. Then, moving stealthily within bow range of each man, the Shoshones launched a sudden and deadly volley of barbed arrows at the unsuspecting party. Several miners were wounded in the initial attack, but none were killed. The men quickly returned fire, forcing the Shoshones to abandon any attempt at close combat. The prospectors retreated to their camp, but soon realized that the site offered little protection. Grabbing a few provisions and the heavy container of gold, they made their way up one of the nearby high hills. Upon reaching the summit, they split into defensive positions and formed a perimeter, preparing for the next attack. The battle soon shifted into a siege. With no access to water and the Shoshones holding the upper hand, the miners were in a desperate situation. After 2 exhausting days, they agreed that 2 men would attempt to break through the enemy lines and head to Silver City for help. Miraculously, the 2 volunteers succeeded in slipping past the Shoshone forces and reached Silver City. There, they organized a rescue party and hurried back to the remote canyon where the battle had taken place. But when they returned, it was too late. The fight was over. The rest of the miners had been massacred, and the gold was gone. It was assumed the Shoshones had taken the treasure. For the next 3 years, the matter was left unresolved. Then, in July 1867, a new prospecting expedition from Austin, Nevada, was led to the site by a Paiute Indian named Captain Jim. His fee for guiding them was modest, just a few blankets and an axe. Upon arrival, the group organized a mining district and named it Tuscarora. News of their gold strike spread quickly, appearing in professional mining journals and attracting miners from all over the West. One of the newcomers later wrote to the American Journal of Mining, confirming that the placers matched the location of the 1864 discovery. "The placers here are not altogether new discoveries," he stated. "Holes have been found that show the early prospectors were here several years before. There seems to be a tragic, unwritten history behind the fate of that first party." According to the letter, a hill in the area had clearly been fortified. The remains of a white man were discovered along the creek, likely one of the ambushed miners. Evidence suggested that the group had been surprised by stealthy, deadly attackers. Some of the men had retreated to the fortified hill, where the rocks gave them temporary protection. The signs of the struggle were unmistakable. It was evident that the besieged prospectors had been well armed and brave, but the courage of a few could not withstand the bloodthirsty determination of more than 100 warriors. Cut off from water and far from any hope of rescue, their fate was sealed, either death in battle or capture followed by slow and brutal torture. The gold discovery at Tuscarora sparked a rush, attracting many men from Silver City. Among them were 3 individuals who had taken part in the original 1864 rescue attempt. Now, years later, they returned to the scene, hoping to uncover the truth behind the missing $100,000 in gold. If the Shoshones had taken it, perhaps it had been hidden among their people or traded to settlers along the Humboldt River. In the wake of the renewed interest, a military campaign was launched in northeastern Nevada, aiming to relocate the Shoshones to the Duck Valley Reservation. As prospectors re-examined the area, they used gifts, firewater, and trinkets to coax stories from the local Native Americans. Eventually, they convinced themselves that the gold had never been recovered by the Shoshones. Shoshone chiefs who had taken part in the 1864 raid consistently denied ever discovering a hidden cache of gold. Likewise, conversations with key storekeepers along the Humboldt Valley revealed no record of significant gold dust exchanges by local tribes in the years that followed. Based on this, the prospectors who revisited the area came to believe that the gold had likely been buried by the 5 surviving miners back in 1864, perhaps near the location of their final stand. Between 1868 and 1870, 3 determined miners from Idaho set out to find the site of the last stand, hoping to recover the hidden treasure. But the landscape had changed dramatically. Years of extensive placer mining had altered the terrain to such a degree that the searchers were unable to identify the low hill they believed marked the resting place of the fallen miners, and possibly their gold. Disguising their efforts as ordinary placer operations, the 3 men sank numerous shafts across large sections of unclaimed land. The area seemed to match their memories of the terrain as it appeared in 1864, but despite their efforts, no trace of the treasure was found. In 1870, they finally gave up the search and shared their account with the editor of the Revelo Independent in Idaho. On March 2, 1870, The Independent published a detailed article outlining the original 1864 expedition, the tragic conflict with the Shoshones, and the subsequent attempts to recover the lost hoard. Today, this well-documented tale of a nearly forgotten gold cache appears to have faded from the memory of modern-day residents of Tuscarora. Yet, with today's advanced metal detection technology and a renewed interest in historical treasures, there remains a very real possibility that the long-lost fortune could still be recovered. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to read the original article or purchase the magazine from which it was taken, please check out our website, truetalesofburiedtreasure.com.